to listen to it. There was a TED talk which was quite interesting because it was about happiness. And I just thought it was quite a nice follow-on from the smiles, to be perhaps a bit more positive, because it seems a shame that only a few of our smiles are really to do with happiness. So I'm not sure. I suppose that actually for some people, this is quite, this weekend is a bank holiday weekend. I'm not sure which countries and where, but certainly in France, they've got the day off on Monday because it's the 1st of May. I'm not sure, Lynn. In Britain, do you know if it's a holiday on Monday? Because I know that in the past, yes, it's coincidentally May the 1st is on a Monday this year, yeah, because dear Mrs. Thatcher wanted to disassociate it from anything that could be associated with Workers' Day and May Day that's celebrated by socialists. So it's a bank holiday as well in Colombia, Monique. Is that a Labor Day, or is it for anything
the same
else?
Yeah, I think it's worldwide actually, and no matter the day, we will always have our day off. So a national holiday.
So
this time, of course, it's on Monday.
Okay, so it's always on the 1st, regardless of what day of the week it is.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. And what about in Germany? Is it always the 1st, or is it the Monday? Okay, yeah. So I think, yes. Well, yes. Yes. Yeah, in France, they're very keen to, they call it faire le pont, which is to do the bridge. So they take the extra day off and they have a really nice long weekend. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Lovely. And thank you. And hi, Nidhi. Hi, Aladdin. I was very punctual today, and then it was just me and Lynn for the first minute or so. So I was a bit worried that none of you were going to show up. So I thought that carrying on from these smiles, which left me a bit sad because it seems such a shame that such a small minority of smiles might not actually be genuine happiness smiles. So I thought we would talk about happiness today. And because during the week I'd started a topic on TED Talks, because one of the things which is nice about the TED Talks is that the speakers usually really know how to speak very clearly and very well. I think they appreciate that they are also talking to an international audience. And so the actual quality of the speaking is very good. So they're actually quite good practice for your listening skills, as well as being able to learn quite a lot of very interesting things on a huge range of subjects. Now, I got encouraged to look at this as a topic because last week the Pope gave a TED talk. It's like, what's the Pope doing giving a TED talk? And it was totally unexpected, totally out of the blue. And of course, he did it in Italian. So you have to then just read the subtitles. But what he had to say as well was very powerful. And for somebody who represents Christianity, he could be representing every religion in this world. So what he was saying was nothing to do with Christianity. It was just to do with humanity and good sense. So if you're interested in this, if you look at the topic on the forum, which is just called, I think, TED, then it's the very first one. And quite a few people have been adding various other TED Talks that they found particularly interesting. I've added another one which is given by a Portuguese woman who I don't know personally, but I've had a lot of contact with, who has done an amazing project in Bangladesh. So you see, they're on many different subjects. Okay, I've spoken for too long. So can I please have a volunteer to start us off on our talk about happiness and the longest ever study? Who's going to volunteer? Yes, okay, Monique. Okay, here we go.
Okay, I'll do it now because then I have just to listen to you guys. Okay, what keeps us healthy and happy as we go through life? No, what keeps us healthy and happy as we go through life? If you were going to invest now in your future best self, where would you put your time and your energy? There was a recent survey of millennials asking them what their most important life goals were, and over 80% said that a major life goal for them was to get rich. And another 50% of those same young adults said that another major life goal was to become famous. And we are constantly told to lean into work, to push harder and achieve more. We are given the impression that these are the things that we need to go after in order to have a good life. Pictures of entire lives, of the choices that people make and how those choices work out for them, those pictures are almost impossible to get. Most of what we know about human life, we know from asking people to remember the past, and as we know, hindsight in anything but 2020. We forget vast amounts of what happens to us in life, and sometimes memory is downright creative.
Okay, very good. Okay, Monique, a very personal question here. So what would you say that your major life goal is?
Oh, that's hard. Actually, I think that I always thought I want to be happy, since I'm in, I don't know, since school, I always thought that, I always had that thought. Of course, for me, happiness is not just being, like smiling or laughing. It's more than that. So I think it's a really personal maybe goal, it's more about enjoy life, but in a good way. It's not about money. I mean, it's not like to be a rich person. I'm not thinking about that. It's more about the experience. I mean, it's to experience this life in a different way and make it count. Maybe that's my approach about this this question.
Okay, that's a good answer. Although perhaps to say my life goal is to be happy, of course, in what it then leads to the next question, which is, well, what makes you happy? So,
okay.
What makes you happy? And again, we have to talk about, what makes you the happiest, because there are lots of little things that can make people happy. But what really makes you happy?
I would say that when I do what I love to do, I've realized that I enjoy helping people, for instance. I really enjoy when I can create new projects. I love just to, I really enjoy just sharing with people and just that feeling of community, I don't like just to be alone. I'm always with people and around, surrounded by people. And that thing is okay. Maybe it's a little bit, I don't know if it's weird, but anyway, that's the thing that makes me happy. I mean, when I can do what I really love to do, that really makes me happy.
Okay, well, it doesn't sound weird at all. It sounds exactly the same as what I would define makes me happy. So, yeah, and I think that fortunately, I think there are quite a lot of people who would agree entirely with this. Yeah. Because Aladdin, okay, you've put to be rich, don't ignore it. Okay, so does that suggest that for you, to be happy is to be rich?
I mean, it's for Monique, so I was talking. No, it's a little bit, yes. It might be part of it. So why it might be some people ignore that? Yes, money helps a lot.
Okay.
To go around
now
the
you
world,
say it
for
helps a lot.
example, to see to be happy.
Yes, I suppose it depends on how much you think that money. Because you see, for me, I think I would say money helps a bit. Yeah, it's now it's a means to an end. Okay, that's a quite commonly used phrase. So it's a means to an end. So it helps, but doesn't necessarily have to be the most important thing. Okay. Now, was there any vocabulary there that anyone wasn't sure about? Because I noticed that actually looking at the text of this talk, the vocabulary was fairly straightforward. So I don't think we're going to have to spend nearly as much time focusing on vocabulary. The only one word which I want to check you all understand. Aladdin, do you understand what it means by hindsight? It's at the end. It says hindsight is anything but 2020. And I'm asking you because I suspect Monique already knows this word.
Where is it? Heights.
Yeah.
Mhm. Is anything but 2020? No.
No? Can anyone help Aladdin? What does hindsight mean? Monique, do you know this word?
Yeah, it's more when something happened and you just assess what happened and you see from a different angle. I would say something like that.
When you're looking at something that's happened, it's very easy. We say, oh, it's so easy to talk with hindsight. So it's like when I keep telling my Brexit friends, for example, oh, the economy is going to suffer. And when it is suffering, no, that's perhaps not a good example because actually it's more that a case that I was warning them. I'm trying to think of an example where we could say this. It's when usually you've got perhaps access to more information than at the time. So you were maybe saying something at the time, and then later there's much more information. And so people will say, oh, you can say that with hindsight, but we weren't to know at the time. And that's where often that phrase will be used. So hindsight, looking back on something, is often not very accurate. And then it goes on to say we forget vast amounts of what happens to us in life. And sometimes memory is downright creative. Yeah, you just remember the highlights and maybe you remember things that are suggested, but not actually what happened. Yeah.
So why they use 20 per 20?
2020 means like 100% or accurate. To be 100%. So 2020 means 100%. Yeah. Now, this article is written by the speaker is an American. So we've got quite a few American phrases in here. And even one I had to look up because I've heard it so many times and never bothered to really find out its true meaning. We talk about millennials further up. And I think we actually had a topic all about millennials. Does anyone remember what a millennial is? So that was halfway down the first paragraph. God bless the millennials. I just qualify as one. Aladdin, do you remember seeing this topic?
I
Does
think it's,
anyone remember seeing this topic?
the person from period of time. It's
Yes, but can you give any ideas on what period of
guessing before millennium,
Mm,
before
what?
2000. It mean
I mean, most people, unless they're only 17.
17. So.
What sort of? No, actually, we're talking about the generation before that, Monique. I think, depending on the exact definition, I think the end date is the early 60s. So those people that were born after the Second World War and before about, I think, 1962, 63, 64, are reckoned to be millennials, I think. No, wait a minute, I'm getting confused. They're the baby boomers. Sorry, no, you're right. It's probably the generation who were born Jew. I don't know. They can't have been born. Sorry, yes.
Actually, I'm not sure about that millennials, because if you look it up on Google, some say that it started from 1980s, and to me it's like, oh my gosh. So, but some others say that it's from 90s. I'm not sure. So
yeah, I would think it's more likely it could be from the 80s onwards, because then they would be just in their 20s at the change of the century. And so that's when they're starting to actually have some sort of influence. So maybe about then, yeah. I think so. We're talking about relatively young, not baby boomers like me. I'm apparently just a baby boomer. Yeah. Okay, and I don't think there's any other vocabulary in there, but if anyone's got anything they weren't sure about. There was an American phrase which I haven't heard before. The beginning of the second paragraph said, "We are constantly told to lean in to work, to push harder and achieve more." So this lean in is, I would reckon, an American phrase, because I can't say I have ever heard that being used in British English. Yeah, and you can get the idea of it just by just thinking of, if you're pushing something, you're leaning, you're working hard. Yeah. Okay, who will be our second volunteer? Nobody volunteering? Shall I pick on someone? Mona, would you like to read? Can you read? Or do you want to just listen?
Yeah, hello everyone. I can read.
Okay. No, sometimes people are not able to read because they're in a public place or something like that. So that's why I ask. Okay.
The third paragraph.
Yes.
Okay. But what if we could watch until lives as they unfold through time? What if we could study people from the time that they were teenagers all the way into old age to see what really keeps people happy and healthy? We did that. The Harvard study of adult development might be the longest study of adult life that's ever been done. For 75 years, we've tracked the lives of 7,024 men, year after year, asking about their work, their home lives, their health, and of course asking all along the way without knowing how their life stories were going to turn out. Studies like this are exceedingly rare. Almost all projects of this kind fall apart within a decade because too many people drop out of the study, or funding for the research dries up, or the researcher gets distracted, or they die and nobody moves the ball further down the field. but through a combination of luck and the persistence of several generations of researchers, this study has survived. About 60 of our original 7,024 men are still alive, still participating in the study, most of them in their 90s. And we are now beginning to study the more than two, two, 2,000 children of this man. And I'm the fourth director of the study.
Very good. Okay. When we say exceedingly, so I think it was, it might have been in the middle paragraph, was it? Exceedingly rare. So the project, doing this for so long, is a study which is exceedingly rare. So at the top of the last paragraph, what do you understand by exceedingly? Do you know this word? Mona? Anyone?
No idea. I have no idea.
Okay, Nidhi, you've been very English about this, ahead of limit. What would you say about ahead of limit? Could you make a simpler word? Sorry, I hope you don't mind if I tease, but Indians speak very good English, but sometimes it's more formal, longer-winded sort of English than we now speak, because obviously the English in England, as compared with English in India, is developing in its own way. Okay, so I'll give this one to you. Exceedingly, extremely, or very would be a good alternative to use. Yeah. Okay, so the one thing I'm a little bit worried about in this study, has anyone noticed who we have as our sample, as the guinea pigs, if you like? Because I'm just wondering whether it would be the same if they're Aladdin. Did you notice?
We have a guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs. Okay.
Yeah,
Have you not heard this phrase before? Guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs is like a volunteer from people to study something on it.
Yes.
On them. So we have them on Learning English Network. When we're trying something new and on another platform to help us in Learning English Network. So some of people, I am among those guinea pigs here.
Okay. So our guinea pigs here, or if they are not so much, we can also talk about a sample. Okay, so when we're researching something, we can't research every single item. So we are taking a number which we are hoping will be representative of the whole, and we talk about population, which doesn't need to mean people. When we are doing research, when we are talking about statistics, we talk about a sample from the population. Now, it could be a population of cats or a population of computers. In this sense, we are talking about them being, the population is the total, and the sample, of course, are a number that we are looking at. So have you noticed anything about the sample? Because I'm just a little bit concerned, because it seems to me that they are all men. Yeah, they talk about men all the time. I didn't see any mention of women. I don't know if that's because I've not been. It says for 75 years we have tracked the lives of 724 men. Okay. So this is a rather biased study. Yeah. So biased. We're looking at one side only. Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look at the next section. Who would like to volunteer for the next paragraph? Okay, Nidhi, and I was just going to pick on you if nobody volunteered. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Since 1938, we have tracked the lives of two groups of men. The first group started in the study when they were sophomores at Harvard College. They all finished college during World War II, and then most went off to serve in the war. And the second group that we have followed was a group of boys from Boston, poorest neighborhoods boys, who were chosen for the study specifically because they were from some of the most troubled and disadvantaged families in the Boston of 1930s. Most lived in tenements, many without hot and cold running water. When they entered the study, all of these teenagers were interviewed. They were given medical exams. We went to their homes and we interviewed their parents. And then these teenagers grew up into adults who entered all walks of life. They become factory workers and lawyers, and bricklayers and doctors. One president of the United States. Some developed alcoholism, a few, a few developed schizophrenia. Some climbed the social ladder from the bottom all the way to the very top. Some made that journey in the opposite direction.
Very good. Okay, so the word that I had to actually look up, although I've heard it hundreds of times, is sophomores. Does anyone know what a sophomore is? It's a very American term, a very American word. Okay,
No,
who's that got that one? It's Monique, yes. Do you have sophomores in Colombia? Because I never realized it was actually a second year student. Yeah, I knew it was a student and I didn't really, I might have made the same mistake as you, Hernan, right? So there we go. It's a second year high school student. Yeah. So, and then also there was another word there which I noticed. Okay. We got, tenements. What do you understand by tenements, Nidhi?
Rent place small rooms in rent.
Yeah, it's like apartments and very poor, and I mean I've seen them all over the world. Yeah, so they're very poor apartment blocks where yes, people might be living in just a small room. Yeah, and then there was another term. We've got all walks of life, which is a phrase British and American English uses. So we're talking. For all walks of life, it then is explained very well in the following sentence because it then gives the examples that some became factory workers and lawyers, doctors, bricklayers, President of the United States. Okay, some developed alcoholism, which I think you probably can get from the association with alcohol. What is schizophrenia?
It's a mental disease. Is a mental disease.
Yes. And then again, social ladder. What do you understand by the social ladder?
Means they made progress socially. Their status they make.
Yes, exactly. Their status. Yeah. Okay. So this is very interesting. I'm still worried about the fact it's only men, though, because I think probably things that make men happy, and we will talk about this perhaps a little bit later, might not necessarily be exactly the same as things that maybe women make them happy. Okay, who would like to volunteer for the next paragraph? Anyone? Okay, maybe we'll have... Okay, Igor, you want to read?
Yeah.
Okay. Here you go.
The founders of this study would never in their wildest dreams have imagined that I would be standing here today, 75 years later, telling you that the study will still continues. Every 2 years, our patient and dedicated research staff calls up our men and asks them if we can send them yet one more set of questions about their lives. Many of the inner city Boston men ask us, "Why do you keep wanting to study me? My life just isn't that interesting." The Harvard men never ask that question. To get the clearest picture of these lives, we don't just send them questionnaires. We interview them in their living rooms. We get their medical records from their doctors. We draw their blood. We scan their brains. We talk to their children. We videotape them talking with their wives about their deepest concerns. And when, about a decade ago, we finally asked the wives if they would join us as members of the study, many of the women said, "You know, it's about time."
Yes, at last. So we have the women joining in now. Okay,
Finally.
that's very interesting. So, Igor, I don't think there are any words there that are a problem, are there? Probably not. As I said, I thought the vocabulary wasn't too challenging, but the ideas are interesting. So the middle paragraph, why do you keep wanting to study me? My life isn't that interesting. And then the Harvard men never asked that question. That's a very interesting comment. What do you think? What is your personal opinion about that comment? Igor, do you have any opinion about why?
No, not yet. No.
Okay. Yeah, it's quite an interesting one. Does anyone have a comment to make about that middle paragraph? So your inner city Boston men say, "Why do you want to keep studying me? My life isn't that interesting." But the Harvard men never asked that question. It doesn't matter if you don't have any ideas about this, but I just saw that and I thought, how interesting. Yeah, Hernan, they're snotty guys, but I think it's more that you see your Harvard men are very well educated, they've probably got very high-powered jobs, and they think the world revolves around them and that they are the most interesting people on the planet. And yet, actually, the bricklayers and the other people... Monique, go ahead.
Sometimes I think for some reason we think that our lives are not interesting at all. So it's like it may be because we tend to watch a lot of things on on TV or media, and you think that everyone's life is much better than our lives. So it's more like the impression that we have about our own lives, maybe.
Okay, but I think your view there is a reflection on the sort of person that you are. Okay, so you're not one of these people that goes around saying, "Look at me, look at what a wonderful person I am." But there are a lot of people out there who actually think quite the opposite to you. They think, "Whoa, look at me, I've done all of this." Yeah, and like you, I really hate that sort of thing. But you see, I don't know that we would have very many of those sorts of people on the forum, because they all think that their English is so fluent that of course they don't need to study with something like this yet. So I think we're safe on the forum. We're not going to meet many people like this. Okay, so let's see who wants to volunteer next. Anyone? Or shall I pounce? Okay, Mohammed, can you read? Are you able to read for us?
I can. Yeah,
Okay.
So what have we? So what have we learned? What are the lessons that come from the tens of the thousands of pages of information that we have generated on this life? Well, the lessons are not about wealth or fame or working harder and harder. The clearest message that we get from this 25-year study is this: good relationships keep us happier and healthier. Peri- Period. We have learned three big lessons about relationships. The first is that the social connections are really good for us. The loneliness skill. It turns out that people who are more socially connected to the family, to friends, to community are happier. They are physically healthier. They are physically healthier.
Are you still there?
And yeah, actually, I missed that language, that line.
Do you need someone to perhaps take over? It sounds like you're in the middle of the road.
Okay, let me again. We have learned three big lessons about relationship. The first is that social connection are really good for us, and that loneliness skill. It turns out that people who are more socially connected to the family, to friends, to community are happier. They are physically healthier, and they live longer than the people who are less well connected. And the experience of loneliness turns out to be toxic. The people who are more isolated, then they want to be from others, find they were less happy. Their health declines earlier in the midlife. Their functioning decline sooner, and they live shorter lives. And then people who are not lonely. And the sad fact is that at any given time, more than one in five Americans will report that they are lonely.
Very good. Okay. Now, if you look up to the end of the first paragraph, the very end, we got good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period. What do you understand by period like that?
Period is the what we say that age we got it is the time.
Okay, well, actually, period is, I mean, Monica's, no, wait a minute, Hernan has put, and that's that, okay? But period actually means full stop, but that's American, okay? So Americans would use period to mean full stop. And full stop, and even British English might say full stop in exactly the same use for the end of that paragraph, but to say, well, that's that, finish, end, yeah. Okay, and then there was one other, let's see, what was it? Toxic, okay. The experience of loneliness turns out to be toxic. I think you probably can guess what that means, but what would you say that means to you if something is toxic?
Toxic means sometimes that bad we can say, and also we can say that poisonous and
Exactly, yeah.
Injurious we can say.
So Monique has put that into damaging, which is probably more the sense because poisonous, but poison is damaging, yeah. So you could use poisonous, you could use damaging. Yeah. Okay. So was there anything there you weren't sure about or didn't understand? Was it clear? Okay. Now, Naval, you're keeping very quiet there. Are you able to read?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to read the next paragraph, please?
Okay. And we know that you can be lonely in a crowd and you can be lonely in a marriage. So the second big lesson that we learned is that it's not just the number of friends you have, and it's not whether or not you are in a committed relationship, but it's the quality of your close relationships that matters. It turns out that living in the midst of conflict is really bad for our health. High conflict marriages, for example, without much without much affection, turn out to be very bad for our health, perhaps worse than getting divorced. And living in the midst of a good warm relationships is protective. Once we had followed our men all the way into their 80s, we wanted to look back at them at midlife and to see if we could predict who was going to grow into a happy, healthy octogenarian and who wasn't. And when we gathered together everything we knew about them at age 50, it wasn't their middle age cholesterol levels that predicted how they were going to grow old. It was it was how satisfied they were in their relationships. The people who were the most satisfied in their relationships at age 50 were the healthiest at age 80. And good close to relationships seem to buffer us from some of the slings and arrows of getting old. Our most happily partnered men and women reported in their 80s that on the days when they had more physical pain, their mood stayed just as happy. But the people who were in unhappy relationships on the days when they reported more physical pain, it was magnified by more emotional pain.
Interesting. Okay. Octogenarian, what does that mean?
I don't know.
Okay. Does anyone know? We're talking about these, now they're quite old guys. And I suppose if you know the Latin and Latin languages for numbers, octo refers to 80 years old. Yes, good, Hernan. Was there any other vocabulary there that you weren't sure about, Naval?
Yes, there were a few words. One second. Okay, I just have a question. This line, and good close relationships seem to buffer us from some of the slings and arrows of getting old.
Yes. Okay. Buffer. What does that mean?
Buffer to add up to something, to expand it, something like that.
I don't know. It's more to do with protect. We talk a lot about buffer zones around national parks, so it's more like a protection. It could also a protection. It might be physical.
Yeah. Okay,
And then what was it? It was this. Was it arrows and slings or slings and arrows?
Yes, slings and arrows.
Okay. So this is more of a phrase. So we're talking about, you know what an arrow is. You shoot with an arrow, and a sling is a bit like a catapult. So it's like the attacks. So it's a phrase that is saying, well, a good relationship protects us from the attacks in life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see who have now. Is it Mohammed? Can you read, or are you one of us?
Yeah, I can read. Which paragraph?
Okay. Would you like to read the next paragraph?
Yeah,
Okay.
and the third big lesson that we learned about relationship and our health is that good relationship don't just protect our bodies, they protect our brains. It turns out that being in a securely attached relationship to another person in your 80s is protective. That the people who are in relationship where they really the, where they really feel they can count on the other person in times of need. Those people's memory stays sharper longer, and the people in the relationship where they feel they really can't count on the other ones, those are the people who experience earlier memory decline. And those good relationships, they don't have to be smooth all the time. Some of our octogenarian couples could bicker with each other day day in and day out, but as long as they felt that they could really count on the other when the going got tough. When going got tough, those arguments didn't take a toll on their memories.
Okay, very good. Now, what does it mean by bicker? Okay, it's
Because
bicker. Yeah.
yeah, it's actually it means that we used to build a home with bricks.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Actually, I don't have an idea in brickers, but I think the
Okay.
person who has communi-
It's not
okay,
really, well, it is communicating, but it's a certain type of communication, Mona. And yeah, dispute, but perhaps the best way is to say you're arguing, but it's usually about, yeah, exactly that, Hernan. Silly things, unimportant things. Yeah. So, you have your old couple that will be complaining to each other, but it will be just like things like, oh, haven't you changed your handkerchief? It looks pretty dirty to me. This is stupid little petty things. Yeah. Okay. And were there any other phrases or words you weren't sure about? No? Was it okay? Okay. Time always goes too quickly. So, Hanan, would you like to read the next
Mary, I
section?
want to ask last line about the where the going got tough. Tough.
Sorry, the
What last line, second last line, going got tough.
okay, when the going got tough, I'll have to find the song where and I'll post it on the forum. When things get a bit more serious, yeah. So there is actually a song, and I'm not sure if the song led to the phrase or the phrase inspired the song. But it's quite famous. So when things get serious, when the going gets tough, those arguments didn't take a toll, so it didn't make any bad impact on their memories.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Yeah.
Okay, Hanan, would you please read the next section here? We're not quite the last.
Yes, of course. Thank you. So this message that good close relationships are good for our health and well-being. This is wisdom that's as old as the hills. Why is this so hard to get and so easy to ignore? Well, we're human. What we really like is a quick fix, something we can get that make our lives good and keep them that way. Relationships are messy and they are complicated, and the hard work of tending to family and friends, it's not sexy or glamorous. It's also lifelong. It never ends. The people in our 75-year study who were the happiest in their retirement were the people who had actively worked to replace workmates with new playmates. Just like the millennials in that recent survey, many of our men, when they were starting out as young adults, really believed that fame and wealth and high achievement were what they needed to go after to have a good life. But over and over these 75 years, our study has shown that the people who fared the best were the people who lean into relationships with family, with friends, with community.
Very good. Was there anything there you weren't sure what it meant? Again, we've got this phrase leaned in. Okay, so this is a very American phrase that I think you can get the idea that, you know, they're
inclined.
Yes,
maybe.
Exactly, inclined. Yeah.
Yes.
Were there any other phrases there you weren't sure about?
No, that I can recollect, but
Okay.
I know what a quick fix is, but I don't know, maybe some other.
Yeah. Quick fix. Anyone? Everybody understand what a quick fix is? Quick fix, quick results. Yeah, fast solution, exactly, Nidhi.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the last paragraph here. And who hasn't read? Aladdin, I think you haven't read, have you? Could you read us the last paragraph? Are you in a position to read? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, here goes.
So, what about you? Let's say you're 25 or you are 40 or you are 60. What might leaning in to relationship even look like? Well, the possibilities are particularly endless. It might be something as simple as replacing screen time with people time, or living up a stale relationship by doing something new together. Long walks or date nights, uh, or reaching out to that family member who you haven't spoken to in years, because those all too common family feeds take a terrible toll on the people who hold the grudge. I would like to close with a quote from Mark Twain. More than a century ago, he was looking back on his life and he wrote this: "There isn't time so brief is life for bickering, apologies, burnings, calling to account. There is only time for loving and but an instant, so to speak, for that. The good life is built with good relationships."
Very good. Okay. So, happiness isn't really about just money, is it, Aladdin? What do you understand by a grudge?
Part of it.
It's still part of it, yes.
It still
It's a
exists.
means to an end, because often the biggest disputes and problems in a family are over money. Because if you haven't got enough money and it's really tough to make ends meet, to feed your children, to afford the things you need, then you're going to be having the arguments, and then you're not going to be having this good relationship. So you've got a point that, I mean, money cannot be thrown out of the equation. Yeah. So what do you understand by grudge, Aladdin? The word grudge. I think it was mentioned.
Who holds
2
a
times.
grudge?
Yes, you might. If you hold a grudge, what does that mean?
Getting total trouble, no idea.
Monique's given a clue, but it's not exact exactly right. Okay. Because a grudge usually, Mona's giving it away, okay, but it's a bit more than that, a little bit more than that, okay. Mona's got it the most accurate, but we usually talk about a grudge that will last, it will go over time. So somebody does something to you and you just keep remembering it, yeah, because a dispute can go away, you get over it. But a grudge is something that when you hold a grudge, you hold over a period of time that resentment for some dispute that happened a long time ago. Yeah. And then there was, we've got the heart burnings. Okay. Again, yeah, heart burnings. It's a little bit American, but you can probably guess what that might mean. Heart and then
burning
things. It's something that affects you inside. You worry about it. It's something not it's not obviously your heart is going up in smoke. But calling to account, what do you understand by calling to account?
Is it a money here?
Well, it could be. It could be, actually, but when we talk about it figuratively, calling to account, does anyone know? So it could be that somebody wants you to pay back your debt, yeah? But if you look at it figuratively, it's not just money, is it? It could be other things. Calling to account, you might blame somebody for something, get back at someone, that sort of thing, yeah?
Okay, yes, I got it.
Now, unfortunately, we're running out of time because I was really hoping we could talk a little bit more about this topic. But what I can suggest is that maybe on Monday, we can actually do a little bit more discussion. So what I would like to do is, if you are interested in joining again on Monday, you think about over the weekend what it is that really makes you happy, and whether you think that this article you can relate to. Now, we've got quite a few ladies with us. We're more or less 50-50, which should be a good discussion, because it would also be interesting to hear whether they have different ideas on what makes them happy as what makes men happy. Yeah. So it'd be quite interesting to open the debate that way a little bit, and to really discuss whether or not you agree with the research findings, because it's biased in several ways. Not only is it mainly research on men, but we're talking about America, and we don't have anyone from America here. And I'm not all that sure whether necessarily Americans are representative of the planet Earth. What do you think about that? So just spend a few moments thinking about these ideas. I've posted the actual TED Talk. It's not very long, so it'd be quite nice if you could perhaps listen to it, because as I said, these are wonderful for listening practice. And the guy, he speaks really nice and clear English. So that will also be quite good. Okay, I'm going to have to look at this. A British point of view on happiness, okay, because I find it very interesting looking at the difference between what makes French people smile and happy with what British people find makes them happy. Yeah. So it'll be very interesting to get a multicultural debate going on this. Yeah, but the Danes, Lynn, I think are more like the British than anybody else. Unfortunately for the Danes, yeah. I find that the Danes seem to laugh at the same things that the Brits do, and they even sound like the British when they're speaking Danish, for goodness sake. Okay then, so thank you very much. And for Monday's session, let's do a bit more you talking rather than reading. So I'll try and find a little bit for you to read, but I really want you to give your own ideas. Okay, bye for now.